In this video, we're diving into the Sony A6700's video features, and we're going to explore video quality, autofocus, stabilization, and much more. And we'll see how they perform and if it's the right camera for you. Hi, I'm Demetrios, and if you're passionate about drones, photography, and everything in between, then you're in the right place. I create videos breaking down large topics into smaller ones, making you feel less overwhelmed. So subscribe to stay up to date. Now let's dive into video quality with the Sony A6700. Now to test this camera out, I went to Limassol Zoo, and I thought this would be a great place as I can use the animals as my subject to test out the various video settings on this Sony camera here. Now normally when I'm shooting headshot videos, I will just stick this to HD at 30 frames per second, and this will be sufficient as most of the time you'll be overlaying B-roll anyway. Now if I am shooting B-roll, like today's video, we're looking at the example here on screen. HD is actually still pretty good quality. It does come down to the lens. However, I suggest that if you are going to be shooting B-roll, stick to 4K because you have more resolution. So if you did decide to crop into your video, you will maintain that resolution. And the great thing about the Sony A6700 is it has 6K oversampling. And essentially this just means it has more definition in the sensor, giving you better detail in the image. Now the great thing with the Sony A6700 is you can shoot at 4K 24, 30, 60, and even 120 frames per second. Let me know what you think in the comments below, whether you can see a big difference between HD and 4K. Now the 4K footage I did film at 4K 30, and you do have the option as well, and I normally do this, is for film at 4K 60 B-roll, so that way I have the opportunity to slow down this in post by 50%. Now let's move on to autofocus, which is what Sony is really well known for. Now during my testing, I have already got my mode preset on my camera for video. So like I said earlier, I have one preset to HD at 30 frames per second, 2 at 4K 60, and number 3 I have at 4K 30. And each of these are set up differently depending on what I'm trying to shoot. The other great thing with the autofocus system is that with these new AI features, it has subject tracking detection. So if I press the function button, I can turn this on and off, or if I do have it on, I can select the type of subject that I want to track, whether it's a human, animal, car, insect, etc. And it does a really good job. So at the zoo here, I have it turned off, and you can see it's not really detecting, even though it is getting good autofocus. The minute I turn on subject detection to animal or insect, or specifically animal, if I want to track that, straight away you can see it's detecting the subject's eye and it's maintaining focus on that. It does a really, really good job. The other great thing here is that we have a couple of items on the focus transition. So we have the speed of the transition and how quickly it will transition focus, and seeing how quick the camera can fix its focus. And this is customizable. I have left this to default as I think it does a really good job already. However, if you wanted something a little bit slower or a little bit faster, you can do that too. Now the other one here on the menu is that you have subject shift sensitivity. Now I did test this out with the animal's head and see what this was all about, and it's just how responsive it is to switch between subjects. So at default it is at 5, which is responsive, and you can see this from the screen where the autofocus is switching between the two animals' eyes, where is if you slow it down to all the way to 1, where it means locked on, it will take a while for it to switch subject to track the other subject. I thought this was a cool feature. However, leaving it on default hasn't caused me any issues so far, as this was the only first time I'm actually properly using the camera. Now let's move on to picture profiles. This is probably a main one. From this video here, this is the normal color profile that you see from the Sony A6400. It was going to be very similar to the Sony 6700. However, since owning the 6700, I've actually been using S-Cinetone, and my reason for that is that S-Cinetone is Sony's cinema grade, and this way you don't need to do any post-processing. However, from the beginning, I did want slightly more color, so in DaVinci Resolve, I just add like a 30% color boost, and it seems to give me a more vibrant color, which I like. There's also SLOG3, which is amazing, and everyone talks about it. However, when using SLOG3, even though it has such a large dynamic range, you do add to your workflow when editing your video, so you do have to grade it. It is fairly straightforward to grade. Now, there are a couple of options. The first option is by adding a second node and adding a colored space transform, and then put it to Sony S-Gamut3 as the color space and input gamma as Sony SLOG3, and then your output as Rec 709. This is one option, and then in the first node you can add all your color adjustments where you want to brighten and darken it. I have actually made a video on D-Log M which might actually explain how the color wheels work efficiently. I've had a lot of people comment how easy it is for that. Even though that's to do D-Log M, the principles will apply for coloring and how they work, so I'll link that up here somewhere. Now, the second option to color grade SLOG3, if you don't want to do color trace space transform and you don't know, you can just use the LUTs. I don't know for Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro, but I'm sure they're going to have LUTs as well, and you can download these for free from Sony. However, with DaVinci Resolve, it actually comes with it. And if you just go onto the Sony folder, you can use any one of these LUTs. You add a second node, put in the LUT on the second node, and on the first node is where you do all your adjustments. And this seems to give me a good enough image, making it really straightforward to color grade and adding SLOG3 to your footage if you want more dynamic range. However, I think going forward, I'm probably going to stick with S-Cinetone for now, unless I'll do a custom project just to see the difference and maybe add some LUTs in the future. But S-Cinetone is really nice. That being said, because I add a color boost, I actually did test S-Cinetone by adjusting it within camera, and these are the various different grades you can get. I think plus 10 is perfect for S-Cinetone, and I'm actually gonna save this as my preset now on my camera when I'm recording, so I don't have to do any post adjustments now, and it's all gonna be done within camera. Now let's move on to stabilization. I think a lot of you want to know how good the IBIS is in the Sony A6700. But yeah, this is what it's like with no stabilization, but this is what it's like when I start stabilizing in post using DaVinci Resolve stabilization, which I think is very good. And there's an EMU right there, which I think is quite shy. If you are going to stabilize the footage in post, it's better not to add stabilization within camera, because it can have this really wobbly, weird effect when you do it in post. Okay, 4% battery until we go on to the second one. And this is now standard stabilization, so I'll just take a quick walk so you can see what it's like. Do you reckon he'll follow me, or she? No. But there's a few animals in here. There's kangaroos, there's a stork right in the middle there. I'm doing handheld right now, so I am holding the camera. This guy's just don't know what he's doing. And I think there's a duck in this one. Okay, so this is now active stabilization on the Sony A6700. I have my camera already pre-set up with these modes. Obviously, I've been switching on and off all the time the different modes so I can test everything. Might get shot on by a pigeon. This guy's coming back. But this is active stabilization. The one thing you'll notice is the vignetting's gone because it like crops in. So it does all the stabilization extra for you. However, I do notice from the recent videos I have been shooting with the Sigma 10-18 is that very, very slightly, if there's a big jolt, that you might see it come in the corners, the vignetting, well, from the step-up rings. But other than that, I think this stabilization is really well. And my friends over here, which I'm going to show you now, if I come to a little bit more in the light, these guys, are you giving him head? What the, are you serious? You lot, man, this is YouTube, you can't be doing that. However, I have found active, especially when you're walking handheld with the camera, just talking to it, being completely fine. The only minor thing is that you see in the corners the slight vignetting, but again, that isn't to do with the camera itself. That's to do with the step-up rings that I'm using, because I have to put on a variable ND filter in order to get the correct exposure. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about the variable ND filter from Freewell, the V2 version, I'll put a link up here as well, but this is the one I use and it's actually really good. Now, I did want to include slow motion in this video, as this camera can shoot 4K 120 at 10-bit, which is incredible. I did have to buy a memory card for this. I actually had to buy this. This is a SanDisk V90 card. You cannot record 4K 120 10-bit without a V90 card. The camera will tell you it's not fast enough. So you can use a lesser card, you just can't record at the highest quality possible. It would just have to be at HD or a slower frame rate. That being said, I will make a separate video on 4K 120 on this camera because when I went testing it, I didn't exactly get the best footage. And then when I tried getting the pigeons to fly away, they didn't exactly fly away properly. So subscribe for a future video on that one. But I definitely wanted to make a separate video on this. So let's jump on to audio quality, because if you are an enthusiast, you want to know how good of this camera is it for you to do your content creation, because this is what I'm using it for. So let's jump to me at the zoo so you can hear the difference in audio from this camera. So for this test, we are testing the onboard microphone, and that is an arm's length from the lens here, pretty much. I'm not touching the front of the lens. But yeah, that's an arm's length. What is the audio like here? And if I stand to one side, does it focus on the animals? Well, there's no monkeys. There was monkeys up there. There's over there though. You can just about see. Yeah, you can see in the background. Now I'm a bit closer to the camera so I can narrate, and you can see the monkeys coming down. Oh, look at that one there. The little baby. Can you see the baby on the back? So this is the audio from the onboard microphone of the Sony A6700. So now we are testing the audio from the Rode Video Mic Go 2. Again, about arm's distance here from the camera. So what does the audio sound like with this microphone? I actually like this microphone when I was using it to record some shorts the other day, when you have it really close up with the settings on the app that it comes with it, which is pretty nice. And I like that it's quite compact and it's light. It suits this camera very well. However, it's not the mic I usually record with. That's with the DJI Mic 2, which I have in the bag, and we'll be testing that at the moment. But I just want you to hear what the audio quality like. So this is me standing in front of the camera. If I stand behind it now, this is what the audio is like when I'm standing literally right behind the camera, so I can touch the camera functions. While you watch the monkeys play, you can see one right in the bottom corner there. Yeah, they're hiding, they're right in the corner. Okay, this is now the usual way I record audio, because these mics are really good. These are the DJI Mics version 1. And I'm really happy with these mics. I actually have the wind deflector on while the monkey's playing behind. This is, honestly, the quality from these are good. And the way I have set it is that the transmitter and the gain is at both +3. That seems to be what works for me. That's what's been working for me for all the YouTube videos I've been doing thus far. And obviously I use voice isolation if sometimes this is a bit windy in DaVinci Resolve to cut out some of the background noise and to help make it a little bit clear. But yeah, at least with this one now, I can walk away and I'm still talking. So if I do that now, because I'm still plugged in, you can probably watch the monkeys play. I'll just tilt the camera down a bit. And I'm gonna stand, I'm just taking a walk now because the range on this mic is really good. So I can talk. I'm looking at the lemurs or whatever they were over there before while you guys are watching the monkeys. But taking a walk, good audio. Oh, look, there's one of them on the glass right now. But yeah, look at that guy there. I love this mic. They're really active now, look at them. So which did you think had the best audio quality? Let me know in the comments down below. So this one's a fun one, battery life. You're gonna wanna know how long the battery lasted. Now I had one battery in to film the entire B-roll and testing for that video. And I only swapped at the end, probably just to get a couple more clips of video, but otherwise because I was switching back and forth with the different modes and playing around with 4K 120 right in the beginning with the pigeons, it does eat up a lot of battery. However, I think it performed pretty well, especially when it comes to photos. I know they were talking about videos, but when it comes to photos, it does have a long life compared to the Sony A6400 with the smaller battery. They deplete really quick, whereas these ones that last a bit longer. As always, if you are gonna buy this camera, have multiple batteries and have a power bank as well in your bag. I didn't do any specific testing where I left it to record, as that's not something really realistic. I don't do long podcasts or streaming with this camera. I tend to use it for on the go, starting a clip, stopping a clip, etc. and I'm shooting B-roll. Now let's move on to some of the other features that you get with video on the Sony A6700 that you may find useful. Now the first one here is zebras. You probably know this already from other cameras that you're used to, but the zebras are really, or zebras if you're in the UK, zebras if you're in America. For instance, if you want to find out if you're overexposed anywhere in your footage, you can turn this on. I think by default, it's on the function menu in the bottom corner. It can be distracting, so you can turn this on and off. The good thing is the function button's right there instead of having to go through the menu system. Now, if you don't want to rely on Sony's autofocus, there is focus map. And essentially this just puts colors on the screen so you can find out where your focus is. So everything that's in focus, there will be no colors, and everything outside of that range will be either in blue or orange depending on your focus. Again, you can turn this on and off, and this can be a useful feature. Most of the time I have this off because it can be very overwhelming and distracting, and I'm relying on Sony's autofocus system, especially the subject tracking that it has, which is really, really good. Now there is a feature here called soft skin effect. Now when I record my A-roll, I do have this currently on set to low. However, most of the time when I am filming, I'm using this Freewell V2 filter with the mist filter on top. I can just take that off. That's the mist filter. It is magnetized, and that kind of softens the skin already. However, here is the testing that I found from this. I don't know if you can see a difference or I can notice a difference from it. So let me know in the comments down below if you can see a difference. It is an option there if you want to help soften the skin. Now, if you're a solo creator and you don't have a cameraman, and you want to have some kind of movement or dynamic movement within your frame, you can use this feature called auto reframing. Now, in order to access auto framing, you go to shooting, scroll all the way to the bottom where it says shooting option, and then it goes to auto frame settings. You just turn this on, and now once you turn this on, the camera will recognize you and automatically move the frame within that, and you can see it working here. And you can select the distance or crop that you want, and you set this to your liking, but it can be super handy. Most of the time when I've been filming, I haven't used this, but it's nice to know that maybe in the future I could use this and it will give me some more dynamic shots. So if I am walking in the frame, it will capture me perfectly. Let me know in the comments what you think of Sony A6700 video performance and which feature impressed you the most. And don't forget to subscribe for more drones, photography, and everything in between. And YouTube thinks that you'll love this next.